So why are Liepaja frustrating? What's wrong with Liepaja, I think, is the question for today. This is what we're going to focus in this episode. Liepaja are an important team. They are a very big footballing city in Latvia. And yet, this season, 5 match days, barely 3 points, 1 goal scored, 11 goals conceded. And I mean, had we recorded this a few days earlier, we would have been talking about Liepaja with 0 points and 0 goals scored.
Yeah, well, after yesterday's performance against Auda, they scraped rather controversially, according to the Auda manager. But yeah, they've had a bit of a bad start. They've lost a lot of their fans, it seems, possibly to their noisy neighbour. But I'm sure we'll talk about their fans later, the Breaking Bad fans. They've had a disastrous start. They've signed a hell of a lot of players, and the players don't seem to be blending too well.
Well, they had a disastrous start this year, but last season wasn't great. They finished 5th. The season before that wasn't great. I don't remember which they finished, but they were finished outside of the European competition spots. And in fact, it's been now, 3 years that they've played in Europe, since they played in Europe, which for Liepaja, as I said, it's a significant city. It graduated some of the most iconic Latvian footballers there are. Grobinja's coach, Viktor Dobricovs, iconic Liepaja striker, Marius Verpakovskis, top scorer of Latvian national team ever, guy who scored against Real Madrid in the Champions League, also from Liepaja. Current players, Robert Savarnieks, the right back for RFS and national team, came through Liepaja. Jānis Ikaunieks, captain of the national team and one of the most creative, active Latvian midfielders, there, also came from Liepaja. It's just the list is really huge, and if we're going back in history, Liepaja always produced these very interesting, attacking, creative, kind of free-spirited players that made a lot of difference. And now, well,
now you're struggling to see. You're not seeing any exciting players at the moment in terms of Latvian youth players in the Latvian squad.
Well, that's the thing. There are pretty much no Latvian youth players playing in Liepaja, other than, as it seems, what is the minimal requirement to be able to play in Virslīga.
Yeah. They had was it 4 or 5 Georgian players turn up to a match with all holding flags?
Yeah, 5 plus 5. Coach.
Had they been drinking the night before, celebrating the great Georgian team qualifying?
Why are you asking me? I'm not part of that party.
It seemed a bit of a celebration, and I think as a fan I'd be a bit annoyed when they're not getting results, and they should be head down focused, I think. But they've got, I mean, if you look at them on the pitch, there's no excitement there. They beat Auda 1-0 yesterday, and you could literally hear Tomasz fighting for the points. Every move, every time they got the ball, you could just hear the voice on TV. I mean, I wasn't even there, but he was louder than the commentators yesterday.
He usually is loud, but that doesn't translate into on-pitch performance.
Yeah.
And fans are getting really fed up with this. Rightly so, I think. Liepaja does still, shockingly, have a fan movement. It's called Amber City.
Okay, yeah.
And they are active, but they're completely, it seems, disconnected from the club. And this is just painful to see because, as I said, Liepaja always had a very strong football history in Latvia. And even the current Liepaja team had that up until 2018 or so. Because this FK Liepaja club that we're witnessing now, it's not just some random thing that was founded in 2014, I think, or 2016. This is the most recent, latest iteration that is just at the spear point of a very long heritage of football that comes from Liepaja. And before Liepaja, there was the famous Liepajas Metalurgs, and before that, there were the teams during the occupation, the Zveniaks, which is the fisherman team. There was the Red Metallurg, and before that they were the very, very important team called Liepājas Olympia.
Yeah.
Essentially, the team that started playing football when football started to be played in Latvia in the early 1900s.
Early 1900s, yeah.
And this team is... All right, so before we get into why I think it's frustrating, we ran a survey on social media asking a very simple question that is basically what's wrong with Liepaja.
Yeah.
And it was a multiple choice survey. The questions were what's wrong with Liepaja, coach, players, owners, or nothing's wrong. Come down, alluding to Tamaz's dismissive remarks.
I can
in the
see
press
which
conference.
one. I can see which one you voted for there, and you voted for the coach.
No, I didn't vote for anyone.
You didn't vote for anyone.
The podcast voted for the coach.
The podcast. Okay, well,
maybe it was you.
No, I think I voted for something else.
Yeah. So coach took number one spot with 41% of responses, and owners went second with 34, and the total sample was 113 votes. So nothing representative, but also 113 votes is probably how many fans Liepaja has left. Realistically.
Yeah, it's quite a good public opinion poll.
And we only held it for 24 hours, so maybe
24-hour poll, which indicated 41% of the people weren't happy with Tamás.
Yeah, not happy with the coach, but shockingly 34 were not happy with owners. And I don't know about you, but if you have a situation where fans are not happy with both the head coach and the management, what's the silver lining?
Well,
where do you go from here?
Yeah, there's a bit of a sort of like wheeler-dealer situation going on. They've clearly invested money in players, and they've got a big squad. Did they need all those players? I don't think they did. I don't think they necessarily needed all those players. They were short of players last season. They had a lot of injury. Well, they had some injuries, and they didn't have quite the replacements. They've got some good experience from within the league and some random outsiders. I think that they've made Lucas Silgadze, the captain. He was a fringe player at Valmiera. Under Carnes, he was an impact player that would come on. He's their captain now. They've got the Tunisian guy from Valmiera as well, Karamani.
These are not even Latvian names. Come on, Frank. You need to get your game up to speed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't think these players were quite good enough for the league.
Yeah.
In terms of one being captain and one starting the game, so I think their signings have been quite bad, and these random names coming in as well.
And then the names that aren't random, like Dodo, he's pushing 40.
Yeah, so he's been a consistent scorer, the top scorer for the previous 2 seasons, but he's just not getting any service this season. He's kind of a little bit lost on the pitch. I wasn't sure whether he was past it or not. But he's just not getting service. They're just all over the place on the pitch a little bit.
Well, in the game against Riga, I think, he played as a right back.
Well, he's got the experience. If you look at, in the UK, there was a striker called Dion Dublin. He used to go and play at the back from time to time as well. So experienced strikers at the back, not necessarily a bad thing. Was he effective as a right back?
Well, he conceded 2 penalties.
Okay. So
not as effective. It depends for which team, right?
Yeah. So we can talk about how bad the manager is, but I've got some stats which I could bring out now.
Before we talk about manager, maybe let's talk a bit about the club structure, because if you go to a restaurant and you get your food and it's undercooked and there's a hair in it.
Yeah.
And then you go to complain about the chef to the restaurant manager and, neither of them can help you, you're not coming back to this restaurant.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that with Liepaja now also, that you have a head coach who is underperforming, certainly with respect to expectations.
Yeah.
And then who do you go to? Normally you go to owners and you say, hey, this isn't working, we need a new head coach. But you can't in this situation because, well, owners don't really care. Or at least they don't appear to care. So the owner of Liepaja since 2018 is a one person. Basically.
Yeah.
It's Oleg Khramovs, who is a Liepaja-based Russian origin shipping magnate. I think there's some real estate stuff. And then basically what happened was, after the Liepaja's metallurg died because of the metallurgical plant going bankrupt, FK Liepaja was established, and Maris Urpakovskis was an integral part of that.
Okay, yeah.
And this Khramov person, he was one of the funders early on, but not a majority owner in any case. And then the club ran into financial difficulties, as clubs do, especially here in absence of traditional revenue streams. And so Khramovs took Liepaja over as I don't know the exact arrangement because it's not really disclosed, but let's say majority owner or sole owner. In 2018.
Okay.
And at this point, the strategy changed completely. This heritage connection that I was talking about just now, basically complete 180 on it, starting to import foreign players wholesale. Especially under Tamas. He's a bit of a master. Twice in Liepaja. But here's the thing, that why I say that it appears that the club doesn't care about fans. Well, they don't have to. So, obviously, matchday attendance is a little bit of a sensitive topic.
Why don't you feel they have to care about fans?
Well, I'm getting to it.
Right, yeah.
So, clubs can't make money from matchday revenue.
Okay.
And in Liepaja, the games are free to attend. So
right.
You certainly can't make money if you don't charge people.
Yeah.
But there are no official figures on this. But a little birdie told me, and from conversations, you can surmise that the matchday revenue, even for clubs that do have fans coming and that do charge ticket fees, so that only makes up like 1 or 2% of their budget.
Okay. Yeah. So that's not a sustainable model unless
it's
you're
not
doing
sustainable
something
model.
else.
And then you have a question of, well, if you take this 1 or 2% away, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So in Latvia, if you're taking a cynical view, and much like the price of football, we're not a cynical show, you can just demolish all the stands, have a pitch in the middle of nowhere, play Virslīga, not film it, or maybe film it but only sell data to betting companies.
Yeah.
And it's going to be just fine. It's going to be just as fine as it is now.
Yeah, that's quite a tragic thing. I mean, one of the standout game for me this season was Valmiera versus Riga FC on Easter Sunday. And that was a carnival of football. That was a beautiful thing for the town. I mean, people turned up with a hot tub on the side. Like, it was a great experience. And it's an experience that I'll remember for a long time, even though every time Riga FC come to Valmiera, it's usually a great time. But yeah, I mean, Liepaja, in terms of its tourist experience, the stadium's next to the beach, I think, it's worthy of a great footballing experience. So if you believe that, I mean, free ticket and so on, maybe there needs to be a bit more of a community movement from that aspect.
Well, it wasn't like this all the time. That's the thing here, that back in the days of Liepaja's Metallurgs, and even in the early days of FK Liepaja, Liepaja was one of the most well-attended football clubs, gathering 4,000 or 5,000 spectators in that stadium that now is basically empty whenever the team plays.
Yeah, and I do find that quite sad to see, considering it's a big stadium and it's one of the bigger ones in the country.
I think it's around 6,000.
Yeah, around 6,000, and it's also got this natural. It's got natural hills around it as well.
Well, it's the dunes, because
the dunes, yeah,
30 meters that way is the sea.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
the Baltic Sea. It's brilliant.
So the potential for a bit more of a community-orientated football club that creates an experience for visitors as well as people in the city needs to improve.
Yeah, well, need is a strong word, because this is where we circle back to this idea. If you have a sole owner of a club who does not need to care about fans in terms of finance, is, I guess, happy watching his team as is, well, then no one's the wiser.
Yeah, I mean, you need to have a look at the company accounts and so on to see where they, how are they sustaining themselves and so on.
I don't think Liepaja is publishing accounts.
Where are they registered though?
I don't know.
Okay.
The FK Liepaja, when I checked on the company register, is not shown as active. And I didn't really care to dig deeper and such, but the point is that, guys funding. Ramos is funding the team. It's not a tremendously expensive team. It's not like Riga or RFS.
Yeah.
It's around 3-4 million worth. We know they've been cutting salaries to kind of get their operational costs a bit under control. And I mean, none of that is really a key here. So basically, finance comes from a very specific source that's not dependent on anything that has to do with football.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, if you don't like your fans because they don't like you,
yeah,
well, you don't care. And I don't know if they do or not, but you can make a very good case for, well, it certainly seems like they don't. And in that sense, yeah, if there's an issue with the coach or with something else, fans may as well be standing and speaking to the wall of the Daugava Stadium, and Liepaja is going to be just as effective. Yeah,
it's a sad thing to see a disconnection between the owners and the supporters. I experienced it a little bit when I was in London, and I lived in Greenwich, not far from Charlton, and yeah, there was the fans would throw rubber pigs onto the pitch and all sorts of things in protest. And it's also happened with my cousin's team in the Netherlands, Roda JC. Some fake businessman from Mexico bought the club and just used it to rotate money and rinse the club of money.
Yeah.
And they're just recovering now. So I think who's accountable for ensuring there is good governance and better involvement of fans? It's something that the Football Association need to think about a little bit. And
club is a business, so unless you have like a German model,
yeah,
which here probably not feasible yet.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think it's sad to see the fans not having, maybe they don't have a big enough voice, but I don't necessarily think Liepaja have been a bad team either in the past, and including under Tamash as well.
His first run, they were very decent. They won the Latvian Cup.
Yeah.
His second run, less so. But even just continuing on the fan thing.
Yeah.
But all right. Maybe you will say, well, maybe people in Liepaja fell out of love with football.
Yeah.
You could say that. But we have a good test this year, which is Grobinje. Grobinje is, again, a town outside of Liepaja, like 7 kilometers down the road. So really, a suburb of Liepaja by, modern city standards.
Yeah.
They came to, what was it, in the first round, I think, Liepaja played at home. I don't remember who they played, Tukums or something. And then the next day, Grobinja played Riga. Also,
Yeah.
in the same stadium,
in
the same location.
It was a great
one day apart.
Yeah.
First day, basically empty stadium, like 200-300 people.
Yeah. So we have
second day, there wasn't an empty spot. People were packed in the stadium and standing all around the perimeter. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that was good to see. And we do have a friend in Liepaja, and she told us that people in the city were annoyed with the constant change in players, and there had been a slight local conversion as well to Grobina. So, I mean, questions on local loyalty and so on. Maybe there's a bit of a protest, and maybe a new football business can emerge in that city. Anyway. But going back to Tamas as a football manager, he's certainly a controversial figure. He got banned in the past.
Yeah, in 2009, he was actually banned for life.
Banned for life. Why was he banned for life?
By Latvian Football Federation because of match fixing scandal.
Yeah.
With the club that he was at the time, from Daugavpils. And then this ban was overturned. Well, not overturned, but kind of just cancelled.
Yeah, I did a bit of research. I read a few newspaper articles and
cancelled the following year, and the next day he was immediately appointed as manager for another large club at the time. So fishy, I don't know, you tell me, but certainly has a scent to it.
Yeah, so he had some dealings in something somewhere and never quite got to the bottom of it. But I first saw Latvian football in Valmiera when he was the manager there, and he was all right. He wasn't bad, and he tried to employ a pressing game, and he developed a decent enough squad that the following season went on to win the league. And I did a bit of stat digging to look at career win percentages. Now, when you bear in mind... you've got managers like Arsene Wenger who had a 58% win percentage. You've got Mourinho, 60% win percentage. And then the best was Sir Alex Ferguson, who had 65% win rate. Whereas Tomasz, he's had a career win percentage of 52%, 52.27% from 264 games, which isn't bad, especially when you've got a similar character, Harry Redknapp, who's quite successful at Tottenham. His win ratio was 40% from 1,395 games. So obviously he's played a lot more games as well. But when you look at the Versliga, the win percentage, you've got Simo Valakari, who has a win percentage of 48.37% from 306 games. And then you've got Victor Moroz, whose win percentage is 59.49% from 158 games. So he's not, his win percentage, his career win percentage is respectful for a manager. It's not necessarily bad. So I think he's a shady character, possibly, but I don't necessarily think he's a really bad manager. If you look at the meta manager, for example, his win ratio is just 20.34%, which is understandable considering they're a youth team.
Yeah, and I think his highlight stat would be that they play relegation playoffs 10 years in a row and never lost.
Yeah. So
he's maybe more of a cup manager.
More of a cup manager.
No, look, no one's, I think, saying that Tamas is a bad manager, right? But Tamas has been in Latvia since forever. He's been here for over 30 years. He's been a player. He's been a manager. He very much was with Latvian football from the restoration of independence, from when we restarted, from the very beginning. And I think he contributed a lot to it. I think he, both with his character, but also with his coaching philosophy, I think he's made an impact. Yeah. But, there's always a but. No, even if we compare, so you found some good stats comparing Thomas to Arsene Wenger, which is, I think, supremely flattering. But I have stats comparing Thomas to Thomas.
Yeah.
I have stats on points per match over the years.
Yeah.
And that metric is steadily declining.
Okay.
So his highest points per match were while he was a manager at Skonto.
Yeah, which is understandable. Yeah.
Which is also where he played the most games, 108 games. And he achieved 204 points per match.
Okay, yeah.
Next, first stint at Liepaja.
Yeah.
He played half of this amount of games.
Okay.
178.
Yeah.
So this is now we're in 2018 time period.
Yeah.
Goes to Valmiera, pretty much maintains this level of performance. So 1.71 over just under 100 games. Fine. Still a respectable number. Now back to Liepaja, that he has 70 games or something, which is from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
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 Points per match 1.42. Right? So you can see the trajectory. It's going down. And then the question is Thomas getting worse whilst getting more experience? That doesn't make sense.
No, he's certainly not a Roy Hodgson, for example. Yeah.
Or is Versliga just getting better / different, and so Thomas is being left a bit behind?
Yeah, I think he's old school. He's definitely old school, and he parked the bus against Auda yesterday, but he found a way to win. And I think if managers can find ways to win, they are answerable to where they finish in the league or how many results they get. So you might have a point. He's definitely old school. Will he survive? He might make it out of this season. Will he be back? Probably. But we'll wait and see. We'll see what happens.
I think people are concentrating on this. Well, they got 3 points because they scored from a set piece 5 minutes in and then parked the bus for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, with 24% possession or something.
Yeah. I think people, of course, in football, points is what matters.
Yeah.
But this is 3 points in 5 games.
Yeah, and I mean they've conceded. They've conceded 11 goals.
20%. What were your stats? 20% win rate.
Yeah.
So that's
52% win rate.
But 1 in 5 is 20.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So they got 3 points by doing that, and basically
and they got the leakest
plunged Auda's manager into depression. Basically,
they are leaking goals like a very dodgy sewage system, letting water into the sea.
Yeah. In fact, their goalkeeper, he's very good. Lazarus is good, but their system of play is so flawed now that if you look at the possession, the passing map, Lazarus is essentially their highest rate passer. And if you look at this chart, it's just Lazarus passing all the way to Dodo. Basically the whole game.
They are the only team in the league that don't have any kind of... They are lacking tactics. They don't seem to have any kind of strategy. They'll probably, for the next few games, literally just put 5 defenders at the back, try and score 1 goal, and then do absolutely nothing for the rest of the... We'll see, but they are tactically inept right now. Whether they can change that, we will see, but... Their players, they've got too many random players who don't know each other, and they don't have a system. So, if you're a diehard Liepaja supporter who's even tattooed the logo somewhere on your body this season, you're going to have a pretty difficult year trying to enjoy watching your team, unless there's some sudden dramatic change.
Well, if you're a Liepaja supporter to that extent, you're used to it.
Okay.
It's been years since they played in European competition, and I mean, yeah. And in terms of something happening, one would think owners would step in, but the ownership structure has zero motivation to engage with the outside world. as long as they're bankrolling the club.
Yeah.
Why should they listen to someone else?
Did they fire the last manager, the Belarusian?
Oh, so I think that was the last decent manager they had. And what happened there, that was a saga. So after 2019, just before Valmiera started going for the title, Tamas was put on hold because the owner of Valmiera was considering purchasing some Polish club.
I heard this,
And so Kalns stepped in as assistant manager, and then he was managing the team. And nobody really knew what's going on, and there were a couple of interviews here and there, but in essence that deal fell through, so Tamas was left kind of sitting on his hands. And Liepaja had a really interesting, very, very, very skilled, very clever Belarusian manager who was really trying some. I heard they were like training with drones to work on their positioning and such. Stuff that's really innovative, especially for a few years back. And they just sacked him halfway through the season, picked up Tamas. Tamas came in, started this whole reformation, sacking players, cutting salaries. So there were staffing changes. And then, his first half a year, fair enough, you're remaking the team. Then he was like, all right, so I'm now a sports director, I'm a head coach, I'm responsible for recruitment, for everything, so it's all on me.
Really? So he's under the role of sports director?
That's what he said. Maybe there is a nominal one, but he essentially implied that he is responsible.
Jack of all trades.
For recruitment as well. Last season, just this thing with extremely high rotation of players. At one point in the summer, just 6 Senegalese landed in Latvia and immediately came out in the starting 11.
And as a result, the Senegalese have the most international players in the league are from Senegal.
But where are they now? Are any of them even left in Liepaja now?
They still have a few. There's Bar and there's
Bar came this season. Val came from Valmiera. So it's not on. I think Diagne and someone else, not Diagne, Diao.
So what happened to some of these players from last season?
He tried them out. He did not keep a big part of them, and then basically shipped them off and got the next batch in. And this is what you alluded to with the secret Liepaja fan source that they don't even know who the players are because they're rotating so quickly.
It takes away it takes a lot away from the soul of the club when there's a constant rotation of people coming and going. It's like being in a bad company where employees stick around for like 6 months and then they're gone. Nobody wants to work in a company like that, and people don't really want to be affiliated with a company like that as well.
And it's not like Liepaja are selling those players on. They're just releasing them. So what's the point? It's like a lose. It's a loss for the club, it's a loss for football, and it's a loss for fans.
They're maybe trying to do Valmiera on speed or something in terms of finding quality and I
mean, maybe they're trying to do like a spray and pray approach to recruitment and hoping they'll get the next star, but doesn't seem that way to be honest.
Whereas I think Valmiera, based on what Khan said in the press conference after the Riga FC game, he said, we recognised we had a problem last season with some of the players and we started to make plans, and the current midfield system or players there are as a result of recognising a problem and having a long-term strategy in bringing the right players in and fixing that. So, if there is a good system, which clearly isn't happening at Liepaja, there's a problem.
So what to do? Many people believe that owners need to bite the bullet and get a new manager in. But then again, they seem to be such buddies over there that it's almost difficult to see. I think Tamas still has what to give to Latvian football, but I do not think he has what to give as a major club manager. So maybe it's time to move on to like the head of academy or sporting director or some kind of role. And I mean, ideally, finally learn at least a sentence in Latvian after living for 30 years here.
We will see if he does better than Almeida from Auda. this season, I think that will be a good comparison on where they go. I think what's happened, Almeida, he could be a really exciting manager, but there's clearly games where Auda have been lacking league experience and so on.
But Almeida just got here. Thomas basically helped build.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that Almeida for Auda is his first year as a manager, first team as a manager, and he's coming in with some new modern ideas. I think it was interesting seeing out of Valmera game because he certainly had some good coaching staff and they were tactically astute. Whether his modern approach works and how to do well and Liepaja ditch, that might be a nice comparison.
Yeah. So we'll see.